GOGI. Learn those tools, real lessons to live by.
And I was told all these things before going to prison and county jail that people can't call you this word or that word. If you don't react in physical violence, then you're going to be labeled this or that. The whole tribalism of prison, was something to me that was, I was like, oh wow, I want to be a part of that because I thought that, like that culture would have bring positive, powerful, progressive action toward betterment and spiritual and emotional fulfillment while we were incarcerated. But that's not what it was. That is just not what it was. I have my license. I now have a job that I've been working and I'm driving legally. And I have so much flexibility in my job that I can take off an hour and a half, 2 hours to go see my parole officer and come back. And it's rainy here in Oregon and the rain has subsided. And mind you, I work in a where I do I run all of the warehouse for, GNR auto wrecking. So I'm the guy now, and I'm reorganizing these pallets. I work with motors, transmissions, transaxles, and I don't know my head from my foot when it comes to this stuff. So I'm all learning all of this, and so I'm oily. I got two coats on. I got a beanie on because it's cold. I got my hood on, and I'm driving. I'm driving my mom's car because I don't have my own car yet, but it's completely legal. I have my license, and the sky broke open, and there was a rainbow, and I was just enveloped and I was just taken over by this overwhelming feeling of gratitude and thankfulness. It just showered over me and enveloped me. And it brought me to tears. I was like, wow. I was just like, under 90 days ago, you were behind the fence, encased in those bricks, waiting for this moment. And there was, you're doing it. And, this ties back into my whole premise for Gogi was the feelings of unworthiness, perfectionism, rejection, not good enough, a good enoughness, if you will. And I didn't learn that until I had Gogi to help me understand that and put language to it because of where I come from in my history. My father was not present or was present very little in my life because he had also went to prison a couple of times. And so by default, my mom raised me and she did a great, wonderful job at that. She did the best that she could, and that was amazing. But there was always something in the back of my mind. And I realized that, when I would get those letters from prison, I stopped opening them and I didn't read them because I was so upset and I didn't know why as a young child. And so I repressed it, and so actually going to prison and having these tools, which I thought being in prison politics would give me that acceptance, that fulfillment, that culture, if you will, that Gogi provides, it wasn't that. And so upon, arriving at Gogi, I had, recently I had, was in a medium prison and, I was running with, a car and I had gotten in 4 physical altercations over silly things, mind you. Someone called me a word, and someone wanted a lot. Everybody gets tested when they go to prison. Where are you at? Where are you going to stand? And this was over me guarding somebody too roughly in basketball, mind you, in prison, right? And so, and that was with the car I was running with. There, they wanted to see where I was at, and so there goes another physical altercation. I thought that those two things were going to be the glue that solidified me into, yeah, because like the only time I got in trouble was when I was intoxicated. So I didn't come from a lifestyle of criminality. That gang life, was something that I seen, kids we grew up with kill each other, later in life. And I didn't want any of that. And so when I went to prison, I was thinking that it was going to be the crew that I ran with, that was all about sports and school and, and partying and having a lot of friends and doing all of that and being really involved in school life. But it wasn't.
So
So
tell me this, that you get sentenced to prison, you think you're hearing about all these prison politics and you have to be in this car or that car, you can't say this, can't say that. What
sure.
was the first interaction when you first heard about Gogi, or did you think it was Gogi, or who said what? Give me that first moment, and then let me ask you a few questions about that because I think that happens for a lot of people, whether they've been down 20 years, 30 years, or 2 weeks. They get introduced to this Gogi thing, and there's a variety of experiences. I want to know yours. The first day that you heard the word Gogi or saw it was when?
So the first time I heard Yogi, there was no programming where I was at, and so when I first got there, I was in line and I had signed up for every class because I am very familiar with self help. I love psychology. I didn't know what cognitive behavioral therapy was, but I learned about that. And so when I went from medium institution to the minimum institution, from Snake River's medium to minimum, it was just a whole different dynamic. And I was like, wow, this is awesome because people are more friendly. There's less of that politicking stuff there. And, I remember getting close with who became a Gogi coach, James Howard. And he was a guy who had done I think he did 20 years, 20 something years altogether, but he's this big guy. He's real charismatic and he just is like, he's up in your face and to everybody, like, I don't care about who you think I am. Then I got introduced through him to Coach Patrick Kirk. And that's where he told me, because I was like, what sort of programming do you guys have going on here? I want to know about everything.
Okay, so you 18 months, you're in a minimum, medium security, then you get
Yeah.
moved to this minimum, you get on the yard and you like it. I mean, people are more positive, and then you introduce yourself to someone and they say the word Gogi or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
So, Patrick Kirk actually was the one, Coach Patrick Kirk. He was like, yeah, have you, I mean, and if you've ever met Patrick Kirk, he has a way. He's very unique. He's a very eccentric individual, how he talks. And he's like, well, I mean, because I asked him what kind of programming is here. And he's like, have you ever thought of GOGI? I said, GOGI, what's that? I'm really interested. And he told me, well, it's an acronym and it stands for getting out by going in. And there are 12 tools that are just simple, easy, rudimentary tools that you can pick up really fast and they work however you need them to work. And he's like, there's a meeting that I'm facilitating that happens this Tuesday. You should come and check it out. And this was, I think, March, the last week of March. So it was an ultimate freedom meeting. And, and I checked it out and I sat in and I was like, yeah, I like this. I really do. I like the camaraderie that's in here. And there's a lot of good guys that were really friendly. And this also goes along with, the prison politics where I was at, because when I got over to minimum, there was some silly things going on with that with my brother who was there, who was just independent. And there was issues with that. So I had just literally said, I'm done with this. Like it's just so much craziness and it's so heinous. I don't even understand why you guys do this. I don't want nothing. And you got problems with my family member, so this is my actual blood brother. We're in prison together, unfortunately.
Okay, so
Um,
let me back up. You were raised by your mother because your father had been in prison, and
yeah.
now you have a blood brother in the minimum institution. There's a little bit of politicking or whatever,
Yeah.
or hating on. How on earth could you decide that you wanted a different life? I mean, you have your father, your mother probably didn't have it easy raising you. You have a blood brother in a prison. How on earth are you positive saying, wow, I'm down for this Gogi thing? Because most people say, well, what do you expect? My dad was in prison. My mom struggled. My
Right.
brother's in prison. My neighbors are in prison. Everybody's on drugs. There is no hope. You don't have that perspective.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I know my self worth, and I know what I want in life, and the I made a conscious choice to put myself in a position that put me in prison, and so and like I mean, I love getting better, and when I see something that is based upon getting better, I want that because that was I think I was there about let's go 18 minus 70. I think I still had about 48 months to go. And, I mean, and then it really sunk into me like, you still have 4 years to go. Are you going to keep doing what you've always been doing? And the lack of programming was just insane. And so it was a last resort for me, but it also was like, this is the gem that's sitting there that's like, hey, look, come to me. There was no COs or staff members that were there. It's completely free. There was inmate facilitated, inmate ran. We made the rules. I mean, and Coach Kirk went over all of these things with me in a real short snippet. And they're celebrating that, this is going to start all over. There was no linear, linear, like we're going to stop here. It just repeats itself. And I
Okay, so
need,
let me ask you this question. You
there's so
get
much. I know there's so much.
it's so much. You get to this minimum yard. A
Yeah,
fellow inmate says, "I'm running a GOGI meeting Tuesday.
yeah,
There is no programming on this yard. I'm running it."
yeah,
The students gather and they run this meeting. They're making their own rules. They've created this program. They're running the program. The officers aren't involved. There's no outside person coming. There's
yeah,
no money needed to do this. What
yeah.
are you thinking at this point? Because
I,
that's crazy. That doesn't happen. What are you
I
thinking
mean,
at this point?
sanctuary, safe place.
Wow.
That's those are the words that I can hear in my mind, is sanctuary, safe place, because then he went to furtherly tell me, just to back what you said, this was created by inmates for inmates. And like I'm a traumatic brain injury patient, so I mean I need things to be redundant to stick in my long-term memory because I have a little bit of frontal lobe damage. And that to me was like, wow. I was like, this is somewhere that's a safe place that I can go and be vulnerable and grow with other people. And it just so happened, I mean, it was by the blessing of God that, like the way that this transpired, is that I was in this thing, in this prison politics that I didn't fit with. It was an ideology that I didn't fit with. I didn't believe in. I would not stand with. And then, I come to minimum, and then I have a blood brother there who actually has problems with the people I was with. So that's a no-brainer. And that's a no-brainer for me. It's like, okay, well, whatever. I mean, and then there's this group that is about positive progression, that is for us, from us, by us, to help us. I mean, and it's super easy to learn, and we can make it whatever we want. And that's another thing that Coach Kirk was telling me. He's like, there's GOGI for vets, there's GOGI for cops, there's GOGI yoga, there's GOGI bodybuilding, there's GOGI anger management, substance abuse victim. I mean, when he was going down the line, and he was like, yeah, and there's book reports you can do, and you could become a GOGI coach. And then like my whole entire antenna went up, and I said, well, what's that? And he had expressed to me, he was like, you can accumulate these credits, and you can do these books, and when you do the free stuff, you kite the counselors, and they'll give you more books that actually cost money, and you can actually get them at a discount, or the institution will provide them for you. And I was in line for anger management and domestic violence and substance, and I was going to AA before I was in the medium, and that was the only programming I had in the medium. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what I need. And this is what I want, because this is what I had envisioned prison being like, was somewhere that was like, okay, look, this is a really extremely structured environment. So from this time to this time, you're going to be in this class. From this time to this time, you're going to be at your job. From this time to this time, you're going to be able to go to the yard. From this time to this time, you have to eat, 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 and then you sleep and you rinse and you wash and you repeat. So I thought that that's how it was. But COVID happened, and I mean, that sent the whole entire, not just the country, but the largest prison in the Pacific Northwest into complete shambles. Like everybody was scrambling. They didn't know what was going on. But what happened from that was, not to mention, all the deaths and all that stuff that happened with it, and we're terribly sorry for that. But like we were stuck, and we didn't have any programming, and we didn't have anything to help us get better. And so it was just like boom. But then you take out that there doesn't need to be a correctional officer or a staff member or anything there. The institution doesn't need to pay for it. It's ran by the inmates, and we have a place to do it. I mean, those to me are just like, oh, no brainers, no brainers, no brainers, no brainers, no brainers. I mean, like it's just boom, it clicks. That to me, it was like when I was hooked. And then so I went to that first meeting. I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, I got my toes wet a little bit, and then it was a boss in my brain meeting, and that's where I seen the first Spider Table book, and the first Spider Table course. And I looked over it, and we're going over an introductory meeting. We're setting it up, and we're going over rules, and we made a GOGI name. And I think our first group's meeting name was Tuesday. That's what the group had came up, was just Tuesday. I'm like, we can name the group whatever we want, and the group census was, let's come up with Tuesday, because nobody could decide. And so someone was like, hey, let's just go call it Tuesday because it's on Tuesday nights. Everybody agreed on that. And that to me was like, wow, this is really like, mental health is cool. What, mental health is something that should be normalized, and there shouldn't be this stigma between people trying to get better. And that to me was there. We went through the first Boss of My Brain meeting, and it was so simple. And it's that this month's tool and this week's tool is Boss of My Brain, hence the bomb behind me.
Uh-huh,
Um,
I see that. I see that.
and
That's pretty cool.
I mean, it's like, and then I was reading in the Teach Me How to Gogi book that they had made an acronym for it, like I'm the bomb. And it's like, wait, what? I am the bomb. And obviously, bomb is for short, boss of my brain. And it's like, I am the bomb. And so I don't have problems sharing in groups. I'm pretty familiar with the group setting and I'm pretty outgoing. And I love that. I swear I thrive, actually. I love that stuff. And that's, why I love Gogi so much. And Gogi, I mean, loves me. Um, I mean, and I say that and set them with the most humility because we definitely have a symbiotic relationship that betters everybody around us
So
and with
here's
simple
my
tools.
question. Let's say I'm on a yard. I get to a level 4. You're a level 4, and you are a Gogi coach. And there's not much programming here. And I really don't want to be involved in the politics. I really want to go home to my family. I
Yeah.
really don't want to talk to my dad who's in prison. I don't want to talk to my mom who's in prison. I don't want to talk to my siblings who are in prison. I'm really done with that life. And I come and say to you, hey, why are you so happy? I mean, you're happy here, dude. How can you be so happy? And how do I get some of what you got? What would that conversation look like? Because we're going to make a little introduction video course that's
Yeah.
going to be on prison tablets, and probably 300, 400 prisons and jails or institutions are going to offer this, probably
Yeah.
to 40,000 people.
Yeah.
So I am one of 40,000. Introduce me to, what do I do? Okay, I
Yeah.
want some of what you got. What do I do? What are my concrete steps? I want out of my prior life. I want some of what you have. Give me some
Right.
instructions.
Okay. I mean, and so, if someone approaches me in the yard and they just express to you, what you just, or they express to me what you just expressed to me. Because I'm pretty long-winded, so I'm trying to make this direct and short and simple and sweet. I could be long-winded because it's so hard to fit into just a little synopsis. Um, how do you feel about your current situation? Is the question because I've had this question asked to me plenty of times. How do you feel about your current
And
situation?
I would tell you, I don't belong here. I don't want to be here. Wrong time, wrong place, wrong addiction. I'm
Yeah.
done, Coach
Right.
Andy. I am just done. I want out. I want home. I never want to see the police at my front door. I don't want to be
Right.
afraid as I'm driving down the street, looking in the rearview mirror, thinking that they're after me. I
Yeah.
don't want to be afraid anymore. I just
Mhm.
want to live a good life and be a good person, Andy. That's all I want. But I've
Okay.
got this family, I've got this addiction, I've got this history, all my friends. I don't know if it's possible for me, Coach Andy. I don't know.
Okay. So I mean the response I always have in that is where did all of that you didn't want start? Where did that
Well,
start? I
it's
mean,
it's not my fault. I was
it's
born
not your
into the
fault.
family. That my community is what
Right.
it is. The government is what it is. Nobody can keep a job. Everybody's underpaid. Costs are going up. And
Yeah.
then drugs on the streets, and in some cases they're pumping drugs into the streets.
Yeah.
And what other choice did I have, Coach Andy? I did not have another choice. I wasn't given a shot, but I want to
Okay.
take the shot now. I'm ready to do something different.
Okay. So do you know what GOGI stands for? So GOGI is an acronym for getting out by going in, for internal freedom. So I
The
mean,
name
when we
Gogi sounds funny. I'm not too sure if I'm down with that. That sounds like Gogi. Come on.
yeah, GOGI is great though. I mean, because we get out by going in, right? I mean, all of this started from within inside of you because from the time you were, what age would you say that you were making, responsible choices on your own? 12, 15, maybe?
Well, I mean, most me and my friends, 9 years old, were smoking dope or drinking.
Okay. I mean, but at your own choice, right? So you were in control of that choice.
Well, some would argue.
Some would argue. Okay. So Goki's first tool is boss of my brain, right? So do you believe that you're the boss of your brain at this one point in time?
right now in my life, here, sitting in this prison, sitting in this 8-foot cell, what goes on in my brain is up to me. Yes,
Absolutely.
I believe that I control my thoughts. Yes, I do.
Okay, I mean, so Gogi is super simple. So Gogi believes with all this neurological stuff that's going on that could be so intimidating and it has so world like, neuroplasticity. We don't even need to worry about none of that. We just want to focus on three parts: the smart part, the old part, and the emotional part. Old habit part and the emotional part. And which one is the boss right now? So when you wake up in the morning and you decide to brush your teeth, that's you using the smart part of your brain because you don't want to have bad breath,
Right.
right?
Okay. Got it.
Exactly. Okay.
Got it.
So when you're standing in line and someone is freaking out in front of you and you have no control over it, but you start to get frustrated and you start to ruminate on that and you start to be like, man, I shouldn't be here, but you are here. That's the emotional part of your mind taking over. You're letting your emotions and your anger and your frustration get the best of you. So that would be the part that's the boss right now. So let's give that same situation. You're in line. Let's just say that we're not in prison. Let's just have a theoretical situation. You're in line, you're at the grocery store, and you have that bag of dope in your pocket. And that lady at the cash register's card's getting rejected, her baby's crying, her other kids running circles around the cart, and you have a grocery cart full for your family, and you say you get a case of the F it, and you leave your cart right there and you go smoke some dope and you commit a crime. That would be the old habit
Old
part that
habit.
was the boss thing.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah. So at any one point in time, no matter where you are, you can be the bomb. You can be the boss of your brain because you can make that thought and that choice to change that emotion, that behavior, or that action to say, all right, I'm going to do it this way. Because you can be told to stand in line, but you can't be told what to think. Because we can be put in a cell that we put ourselves in, but we can't be told what to do in that cell. So wouldn't you want to do something to get out of what you've put yourself into? Because remember what you said about you being 9 years old, that some would say you were making those choices. And from that point in time, you were using your smart part, you thought. And so now that we're here as adults, we're not what happens to us, we're what we choose to become, is what Carl Hung has said. And I really love that. And we don't want to put the blame and point the finger at anybody else because the finger's pointed right back at you because we put ourselves in this situation. So now it's up to us to choose different. And Gogi is that. That's what Gogi is you choosing different. And just by you being in Gogi, you're already making a positive, productive, and a powerful choice to change all of what you don't want.
I love your description. And I also love playing a person that's relegated to an 8-foot cell because
Yeah,
after 24 years of talking to hundreds of thousands of people in that 8-foot cell, I know that there's a moment when it clicks. There's a
yeah,
moment when the scales tip and the student of life, the student believes that something more is possible. And
right.
that's at that critical moment when we want them to say, Gogi, getting
Yeah,
out of prison by
yeah,
going in for the answer.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that is beautiful. And as people watch this course, and I want to bring you back, but I'd love to do another one, maybe specific to something else that you
yeah,
think 40,000 people may do this course. And
yeah,
I really want you to have the opportunity to spark within them this little truth that they are
yeah.
so much more than their past. What are some things that you would want them to really, really know or understand or believe about what they are capable of?
You are only capable of you. That's what the whole premise that I've tried to drive home successfully and unsuccessfully to people because I can be pretty wordy, pretty lengthy, and I could lose people or I could use too big of words. So I've tried to really simplify it, but I try to let people know that they're in control. Like I want you to know that you're not what's happened to you because we can't play what happened to us because this is where we're at now. So when you have those thought provoking questions like, okay, well, Coach Taylor said, well, I don't want to be here, and then Coach Andy said, well, who put you here? And then it's like, well, who do you believe put you here? I mean, and then you can have that run down where they start to come through this, putting a little tiny bit of psychoanalysis, like, okay, I did, like, I put me here, not the courts, not anything else, because I committed this crime that put me here,
What I
right?
love about that, Coach Andy, is if it's my fault, it's also
Yeah,
my opportunity.
that's exactly it. And
Yeah.
you
If
jumped in
it's
front of me.
their fault, I'm
Right.
reliant upon them. But if I'll take responsibility. It's my fault. It's my
Yeah.
decision. Then it's
Right.
my opportunity to make a different decision.
So that, I mean, and that's beautiful. I mean, and I just love to second and piggyback off of that, because when you have, like when you say, okay, I put me here, but I am also the boss of my brain. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, you're starting to get traction. Rubber's starting to hit the road now. Okay. So now what? Now I start answering little questions that start to help me understand that, my thoughts and my actions and my behaviors aren't the most correct, and I am flawed. And I do struggle with not feeling worthy. I do struggle with trying to fit in. I do struggle with insecurities. I do struggle with anger. I do struggle with impulse control. I do struggle with substance abuse, gambling, masturbation, whatever it is that you can struggle with in prison, that I do struggle with these things. And then once you find that, like, and I love answering those questions that are like, how would you teach GOGI to a kid? How would you teach this tool to a kid?
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I feel like when you put that situation, because I taught Boss My Brain to my nephew a couple weeks ago, and I gave it to him because he's talking about his girlfriend, and he didn't want to listen to something his mom was saying. And I was like, well, what if your girlfriend was here, and or this was at your girlfriend's house, and she told you to clean up your shoes that were on the floor? Would you tell her no? No. It's like, okay, I mean, and so, right, I mean, and so I think when you can do that to somebody, and you can empower somebody, like, these are tools of empowerment, I feel like that's when people are like, you know what, I don't know where I'm going, but I know right now in this moment I'm in control of which direction I'm going to start heading. There are a lot of, I mean, and I wasn't like what Coach James and them guys in the I wasn't a part of those 100 people meetings. I was a
Yeah.
part of more real intimate groups that were sometimes only 2 people,
Yeah.
sometimes 3 or 4 people, but a majority of the time about 6 to 10. And
Yeah.
so in that way, you get a real intimate connection with people. And the minimum I was at was only like 170 people. So in saying you get that more intimate connection, but once you're associated with a GOGI member, now you get the stigma, and you also get the positivity. So
Right.
that's my experience with it. I mean, that's why I mean, not just because it goes with my life, but that's why I chose vulnerability and to use my tools in vulnerability to get over the prison mentality and prison politics, because it's about feeling righteous. It's about feeling good and empowered while you're in a place that you are suffering the consequences for your actions.
A message to our students. I am so happy you're joining us for this series of learning opportunities where you
Yeah.
can to discover that you can be your best. You are the boss of your brain. What if
Yeah.
you're not your past? And there are
Yeah.
so many other things. And Andrew, Coach Andrew, I want to invite you back again. We'll do another,
Yeah.
and it'll be on the tablets for people to do. It'll be on YouTube.
I'm so excited for that.
Yes, yes.
I'm so excited for that. I mean, so how did I do on this? What can I get better at?
Well, we're still recording, and we're going to let the students see this. How
Yeah.
did you do? Your passion for GOGI is palpable. I can feel it. It is
Thank you.
palpable. And I think
Thank
on
you.
our next time together, we will give our students specific things they can do, like get up in the morning and do what?
Yeah.
Seek these opportunities. I think this was a perfect introduction. I think our next time together, you can give them specifics about one or more of the tools. We'll just get a specific, much like you said to your nephew. Hey, if your girlfriend was here and she asked you to put away your shoes, would you have a problem? No. Those specific instances, those specific lessons, I think will help our students integrate the tools so they feel as empowered and motivated as they do when they watch you.
G-O-G-I, G-O-G-I, Gogi told me this, I got tools to live by. G-O-G-I, G-O-G-I, Gogi told me this, I got the tools to live by. G-O-G-I, G-O-G-I, Gogi told me this, I got the tools to live by. G-O-G-I, G-O-G-I.